Listen, the next presentation is very close to my heart as well. It's going to provide an introduction to the UEFA PlayMakers program. This program uses play and storytelling to introduce girls to football, girls aged 5 to 8 years of age, for the first time. The program is very ambitious and aims to develop not only football skills, but also fundamental movement skills and life skills. And to talk about it, we have one of its creators, my good friend Dan Whymark from UEFA. Dan has been a professional football coach in the US and Mexico. He then spent 6 years outside of sport working in legal and digital media industries in the UK. After studying the FIFA Masters in Sport in 2014, Dan then went on to work for Juventus FC in Italy and in an elite football academy in Norway. And then last year in 2019, he joined the women's football unit at UEFA, where he now works on the development of women's football in all of UEFA's 55 national associations. Thanks for joining us, Dan, and over to you.
Hi, Sergio. Thanks a lot for that wonderful introduction. And what I think everyone's going to see is actually a continuation of a lot of the trends that have been discussed previously, which is both nice and consistent, but also great to see that we're on the right track with this project. I just need to share my screen first and foremost, if you'll bear me 1 second. That's an important part of what we need to do. There we go. Is that working? Yes, it is. Good, good. Excellent. All right. So hello, everybody. And yes, thank you. As Sergio said, my task today is to tell you about how the PlayMakers program uses play and storytelling to enhance girls' football participation. So getting them into the program and hoping to keep them there. So I'm going to do that by telling you a little bit about UEFA PlayMakers inspired by Disney, how the program works, and what its focus is. So first of all, as a brief introduction, I wanted to tell you that the PlayMakers project is really aimed at 5 to 8 year old girls that have never played football before. So this is meant to be an introduction to get girls into football for the very, very first time. So we do that through the use of storytelling, of imaginative play, and the partnership with Disney to focus on things like fundamental movement skills, life and football skills, as Sergio said. Now, to do that, we also need coaches that prioritize those things, but also prioritize the needs of the girls as well. And the idea is that what we get at the end is girls that are more healthy, more multi-talented, and more active, and ideally choose football as their activity for life. But as long as they're active, that is objective number one. Now, to start me off, I've got a short video, which hopefully gives a short introduction to the program and why girls will enjoy it. Please let me know someone if you cannot hear it.
We're making it our mission that more girls fall in love with football. To help them be healthy and confident, make friends and learn life skills. Teaming up with Disney, we'll offer an innovative introduction to football through play and storytelling. Want to know more? Take it away, girls. PlayMakers! We play with our imagination. We play through stories. We play to be stronger. We play for fun. We play to believe in ourselves. We play for each other.
There we go. So it always plays twice. So there we go. Skip that through. So wanted to start off with, after that introduction of how the program works, about where the program came from, so you understand the context of the program. And many of you would have seen Time for Action, which is the women and girls football strategy that was released by UEFA in 2019 to carry us through to 2024. Now, I'm not going to go through this at all, but I wanted to highlight it because 3 of its objectives are directly impacted by the PlayMakers program. So it is strategically rooted in where we're trying to go in our direction as a unit, both to get more women and girls playing football, to change the perception of women's football across Europe, but also to improve player standards, specifically safeguarding. Now, this came from a need for us when we identified those objectives to define the problem. So we worked with Sergio at Leeds Beckett's University to create an academic literature review, which looked at the best grassroots programs, looked at why girls are motivated to take part in sport and their influences, strategies to encourage participation, and ways to challenge girls through football. And what we were able to pull out of that was a recognition of what our challenge is and what the challenge is for getting girls to play football in the first place. Now, the first is very obvious. It's gender in sport, in the sense that, you know, many of you will agree, or at least experience, that it's seen as a particularly masculine domain. But also, when we get girls actually to come and try our sport for the first time, often the environment isn't right for them. It can be too competitive. It doesn't meet their needs and what they're actually looking for from their activity. But also, there's a barrier to even getting them there, in the sense that some schools don't offer it. Parents don't think of it for their girls either. And so football isn't even considered as an activity for girls. If you take that on another step further, what you end up with is essentially a group or a demographic that doesn't have a skill set that allows them to participate in team activities to a full extent. If you take a 14-year-old girl who wants to try football for the first time, if she doesn't have the fundamental movement skills, the building blocks from when she was young, in this age group 5 to 8, then it's going to be much harder to play football and much less enjoyable as a result. So what we had to identify that, and then that's actually borne out in the statistics too, that girls play later and spend less time playing. And in our statistics here that came out of the academic review and various other places, 84% of girls under 17 don't meet the WHO minimum guidelines. And in our house, in UEFA, in Europe, 0.7% of women are actually registered with their NAs. So, you know, that's a pretty daunting statistic. And so we realized that once we've identified the best practices and identified the challenge, that something needed to be done about that. And the first thing we came across was to create new environments for girls to experience football from a young age. Now, those environments had to avoid mixed sex pathways and avoid overly competitive environments and activities. That isn't to say, of course, that, you know, mixed sex pathways are not an option or don't function. They absolutely do. But our objective was to provide an option for girls at this age that focused on movement skills before football skills. And it was that experience that was really important once we created the environment, to create an experience that really took note of what was important to girls. So that was life skills, teamwork, friendship. It was personal development over performance. So the questions asked are, you know, what did you learn today? Not how many goals did you score today? And that was a really important takeaway for us. But of course, we have to get them in the door. So we had to engage girls in a way that appeals to them. So we have to create a program that a girl wants to take part in, but also their parents are aware of and want to send their girls to. And then when they're in the door, we need to change the way football is coached to them. So changing who is speaking to them and change who they are spoken, how they are spoken to. I'm not going to spend too long here, but I just wanted to raise how important partnerships are in programs like this. We talked about what we did with Leeds Beckett. We also work with the English FA, the national associations deliver the program. But Disney is the case study here for how a program like this can be augmented and improved by a partnership through Disney. So we wanted to use storytelling to attract girls. Well, you know, there is no better company to tell stories to 5 to 8-year-old girls than Disney's, because they have relatable stories that are familiar. They're perfect for our demographic. And in addition, as a brand, they're trustworthy, they're fun, and they're exciting. So that gets girls in. And then from a marketing standpoint, it's hugely powerful, right? So by using storytelling, we get Disney. By getting Disney, we get an unattainable audience. And that unattainable audience is mums and dads. Because if you take an example of a mum of a 5-year-old girl, she doesn't follow the Champions League Twitter feed. I mean, she might, but the chances are that she won't. She probably does, however, follow Disney Social. So if you can take your program, your grassroots football program that uses storytelling and transfer it into the Disney sphere, you can now reach an audience there was no chance of you getting in any other way. So really powerful. And that can be seen with our launch that was launched right before the pandemic in 2020, which took the wind out of the sails somewhat. But you can see here us crossing over from the back page to the front page. This is the Telegraph, the Times, New York Times, the Guardian, all covered this story. And that was because it reached beyond football and reached into the storytelling and really captured the imagination. Now, that is what we're trying to do, and that's the power that storytelling can bring from a marketing aspect. But there's also a very fun aspect as well that you can create by intertwining what we can bring as UEFA and what Disney can bring as an organization as well. So we have a very short video, just 1 minute, that shows you something that the fun things that we can create by working together. So a fun example of the cool things that we can do we use storytelling to get girls to create engaging content to get girls through the door. But once they get here, you're probably asking, okay, well, how do we use storytelling to actually in the program? So the way we do that, and hopefully you can see this clearly if it's big enough on your screen, is we take a story, in this case, a Disney movie, and we break it up into 8 chapters. So each chapter is 1 week. So over 8 weeks or 10 weeks, the girls come and live out a chapter one after the other and live out the movie of Frozen 2 in this case. Now, if you can see big enough on your screen, this is chapter 3, they're in the Enchanted Forest. You can see that the deliverer has some objectives to address, which is, in this case, problem solving, some footballing goals, and some fundamental movement skills. So the girls get to come and arrive and play out their favorite Disney movies while also learning skills. And I use this example, which is one of our other storybooks, which is The Incredibles 2. Now, this is chapter 1, and those of you who've seen the movie, there is a drill going through Munissaburg, stealing all the money from all the underground vaults across the town. Now, in this exercise, one team is on Team Underminer and one team is on Team Incredibles. And so one team has to put the balls behind the drill that they've actually built at the start of the session to give them ownership of the session out of cones. And then the other team, the Incredibles team, are picking up the ball to run to the front of the drill to stop the drill. Now, this is very simple. In practice, you get them just running around in a circle. But what they are doing is they're moving a ball from A to B. They're pivoting, they're changing direction, they're running, they're jumping, they're interacting with each other, they're working as a team. But they're doing all of this in a world that they've created and using their own imaginations to be part of the Incredibles world. And it's such a hugely powerful tool. When you see these sessions in action, you can really see how impactful that is. And the girls almost learn by osmosis. They learn not by accident because we're designing them to do it, but they're not aware they're doing it. So it's a really, really powerful tool to use storytelling, especially one as powerful as Disney, to tell that story and get girls active. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on this, but I'm aware there's so many coaches and coach educators on the call today. So I wanted to address just how we train our deliverers to do this. And we focus a lot on who they're talking to, right? So they are young girls, but also they are perhaps infrequent movers. They have a lot of barriers to participation. Where have they come from? What are you delivering? We've talked a lot already about the life skills and fundamental movement skills. Focus on those two first. The football will follow. And then I don't have time, unfortunately, to go into this in too much detail, but creating a positive learning environment and the Playmakers approach is so key to try and help them create this world. Now, I've got a couple more slides just to try and stay on time. But obviously, we're talking about getting girls in and keeping them there. And without having a proper pathway, it's almost for a waste, because at the bottom of the pyramid is where Playmakers sits. So what we have to do is make sure that pathway continues. So that is actually very important in terms of having a registration process, but also knowing where the girls can go, and also softening that blow when they leave this safe Playmakers environment and go to a club, which is perhaps old school. We need to have coaches that cross the barrier. So the transition of coaching and spreading that methodology is crucial to making sure this program works. And there are multiple strategies there on screen that the NAs are using to do that. But for time, I'm just going to skip past it. And then for my penultimate slide, I just wanted to let you know where the program is being delivered next year. So if you want to look out for Playmaker sessions in your country, you can see them here. The yellow countries being pilot nations, and the red, purple countries being the final, the first year, full year countries. And then to finish, I just wanted to talk about the key results because they're really exciting. Even though the scale has been really reduced by COVID-19, as it has for all grassroots projects, the vast majorities of girls are new to football. In fact, 87% of all girls coming to the sessions have never played football before. Exactly what we're trying to get. But similarly to a theme you guys have all talked about in the last few sessions, getting new coaches and female coaches into the game is also happening. I think 30% of our coaches have never coached football before, 33%, and 60% or 62% are female. So, we're not only getting new girls into the game, but we're getting coaches into the game for the first time, and new women as well. And then finally, to finish, we have also introduced many safeguarding procedures as well. So we're using this program as a platform to strengthen safeguarding procedures and regulations in every NA in Europe as well. So on that, Sergio, I'm sorry I'm a minute or so over, but thank you very much for that very whistle-stop tour of the Playmakers program, and hopefully you'll find it useful.
Thanks, Dan. It is an amazing program, and I've been very lucky to be involved in the program at different stages, really, from inception to evaluation a little bit, and it's just an amazing program. And the feedback that we're getting on the chat of how much people would love to see something like this in their sport is amazing. We've got 1 minute for one quick question, okay? Why 5 to 8 year old girls? Why that age bracket?
We had a challenge. We either had to create the second stage of the pathway and have no one come up, or create the early stage of the pathway and maybe potentially have no one for them to go. And with this storytelling aspect, we thought it was a wonderful, wonderful place to start, to build the base of the pyramid in Europe, and then fill in the gaps, because many NAs have that already. So we thought we'd start with 5 to 8 year old girls, but also because it's so perfect, it's the perfect age. Sergio, I'm sure you'll know more on this, about the age of getting them moving and developing that muscle memory and developing those fundamental movement skills that are so crucial to the program. So that was the main reason.
Perfect. And not a question. I'm just going to leave you with a thought from Christian on the chat. He's challenging us to say, well, actually, the program could work as well for the boys. And there's plenty of Disney material that could be very appealing to boys that haven't had a positive experience of football, or that haven't been inclined to join a football club. So that's a challenge that the audience is sending your way. I know you're not busy enough. So just someone.
I have a good answer, but we don't have time.
Okay, well, you can answer that on the chat if you want. Dan, thank you so much for all the work you've done in the program and that continue to do, and for coming on today to talk to our audience. Okay, thanks a million.